Hey viewers, welcome back to Wes's Corner. Hope everybody's having a good evening. Today I'm going to discuss receiving a diagnosis of autism as an adult. I'm going to discuss my perspective, and I'm going to also provide some statistics and resources, all of which I will link in the description box below. This subject to me is pretty important, as I myself was diagnosed as autistic just after my 30th birthday, a little under 3 years ago. I'd always suspected that I was autistic, but this was official confirmation. It's honestly much more rare to be diagnosed as an adult than it is to be diagnosed as a child, and it's even more rare for women and those assigned female at birth to be diagnosed as being autistic due to how they present traditionally, but that's going to be a whole other video. Right now, the most common age for a reliable diagnosis is between ages 3 and 4, but a child can be reliably diagnosed as young as 14 months of age. It is easier for children to be diagnosed because they're still developing, and medical professionals can better gauge the development process and deviations from that, so they have a better idea if the child is going to deviate. For most adults, they're already mostly fully developed, so it is much more difficult to receive a diagnosis as an adult, as the testing is not quite there, but there is hope. They're improving on that as time goes on, so in the future it should be easier for adults to receive a diagnosis as well. It may not ever be as easy as it is for children, but let's hope we can get there one day. Now, there are some certain signs that adults can exhibit that are common in autistic people. If you keep watching a little bit later on in the video, I'll go over that in a little bit more detail. But for right now, I'd like to discuss my own personal experience in receiving a late diagnosis of this. So as I said, I'd always suspected that I was autistic. Between my social awkwardness, my crippling fear of social situations and eye contact, my stimming, my hyper focus on certain subjects that people would get tired of, my speech patterns. I was fairly textbook, but no one had ever really known for sure. I didn't receive that diagnosis until, like I said, about 3 years ago. And for me, it was honestly one of the best things I could have ever asked for. I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. It was a great clarification. I finally came to understand who I was just a little bit better. I had an answer for why I was the way that I was and the way that I am. I didn't have to deny it or run from it because it was right there in black and white. It was confirmed. And you know what I did? I embraced it. I didn't run from it. I didn't hide from it. I embraced it because I knew that me being autistic is a part of who I was and who I am. And that is part of my identity. It does not make up me as a whole person, but it is part of who I am. And it has helped me to understand myself better, both now and in the past. It has helped me be more at peace with myself than I had ever been up to that point. And to this day, I'm trying to help break the stigma of autism being a bad thing, because it's not. Just because we act a little bit different than neurotypical people, just because we talk a little bit different, act differently in social situations, just because we're a little more awkward, doesn't mean we're bad. I've been trying to get rid of that stigma, and this is part of what this channel is about. This is one of the purposes of Wes's Corner, is to embrace who you are and then the stigma. And being autistic is okay. So that's what it's been like for me. It has helped me understand myself better. It has helped me to understand others better. And it has helped me to recognize some of these same patterns in other people. So maybe you're wondering, Wes, am I autistic? Do I have it? Well, that, my friend, I can't answer that for you. I'm not a medical professional. But what I can tell you is that there are some typical signs that do present commonly in autistic people. They tend to be milder in adults, though they're not always so. Just some things that you can keep an eye out for. Like I said, if you kept watching the video, you'd get to this point. And I'm going to also put these up on the screen as well. But say, for example, trouble understanding social cues, trouble keeping up with conversations, difficulty with small talk, difficulty with voice intonation and modulation, like you have trouble regulating the tone and volume of your voice. Sometimes you speak a little bit too loudly. Your voice pattern might be somewhat monotone. I know mine is, and sometimes I speak louder than I should. You have a hyper focus and fascination on certain subjects. You might have a certain penchant or ability for something. As for me, it's a memory for numbers. Anything to do with numbers, I can almost immediately memorize, long-term and short-term. Whether it's phone numbers, addresses, license plate numbers, card numbers, and other numbers that I run across in my life. That's my particular I believe they call it an autism superpower, but I don't like to refer to it that way. It's one of my quirks. So you could have that. Stimming, which that's stimulation, like rubbing your hands together, tapping your feet, snapping your fingers, playing with your hair. You could have that. You could also social anxiety. You find yourself in social situations and you don't really know what to say, what to do, and it's generally kind of an awkward experience that you're just looking to get out of as quickly as possible. And then you also have, now keep in mind, the list that's on the screen goes into a longer list than what I'm going through. This is just an abbreviated one. We don't want to have this video be too long. The big one is the Autism Meltdown, which is pretty awful. A lot of people could describe it like a temper tantrum. I feel like it's a little juvenile to describe it that way, but I actually have a whole video talking about this particular phenomenon at length, which I will link to in the description below. But those are just some of the things that you may experience if you're autistic. Now, right now, or at least as of May of 2020, it was estimated that about 2.2% of United States citizens, those living in the United States, had autism, were autistic. That's about 1 in 45, or about 5.4 million. So next time you're at a large event, such as a concert or sporting event, with let's say 50,000 people, about 1,100 of those people will be autistic, statistically speaking. So it is so much more common than you might actually think. That those statistics are for those 18 and older. So if you feel like you don't have it, you're like, oh, I couldn't have it, it couldn't be me, but those traits seem familiar to you, you feel a little attacked at those, maybe it's a good idea to get a official diagnosis just to confirm. There are tests you can take online, which again I will link to those as well, but do not use those as a tool for self-diagnosis. Use that as a guide to assist you in receiving a formal diagnosis from a medical professional. If you don't have it, okay, you don't have it. If you're not autistic, then. If you are autistic, okay, you can keep on living your life. Don't run from it. It doesn't change who you are. Don't let it change who you are. Don't let it define you either. But acknowledge that you're autistic. You don't have to necessarily embrace it, but acknowledge it and accept it, because it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. There's absolutely not. You're in some pretty good company, honestly. It doesn't matter if you're 18 years old, 20, 25, 30, 40, hell, even 50, 60, or 70. There's been a lot of people diagnosed as autistic later in life. And you're never too old to learn more about yourself. You can always learn more about yourself, no matter what age you are. That's the beauty of the human experience. So we're always learning. So take that opportunity, if you can, to learn more. And if you are autistic, if you are struggling with it, there are resources in your area which you can find. There's support groups, both nationally and locally, and even if you're outside of the country, outside the United States, there are support groups located in Europe, Canada, all over the world. It's not a bad thing to receive a diagnosis of being autistic later in life as an adult. It's not a bad thing to receive that diagnosis at all. So even if you are, don't let it change who you are. You can still be you. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Click the notification bell to be notified of any future videos being uploaded on the channel. That is all for this episode of Wes's Corner. Join me next time when I discuss struggling with one's own identity. Thank you for visiting Wes's Corner. Have a good night. Goodbye.